Welcome to the Untitled Chapter. Now today we have something very special in store. We have something called the Gaming Time Machine here. Now the Gaming Time Machine works in a very unique way. You plop a game into the Gaming Time Machine and it'll give you an older version of what that game would have played like. So sometimes we get tired of those 3D graphics. We want to just go back to what it would have been like playing that game in 2D. So let's take a look exactly how this would play out. Let's take a game like Super Mario Odyssey. Fantastic game. Love this game. But let's say we plop it into the Gaming Time Machine. All you gotta do is lay it in there. Of course, you press some buttons on the back. You let it work. It's magic. And of course, you pull it back open. And what do we got here? We got Super Mario Brothers on the NES. Oh my gosh. Wonderful game. But see how the Gaming Time Machine works. You just plop a game in and you get a game from yesteryear. Let's try a different game here. Let's try something like Pokemon. Let's go Eevee. We plop it into the Gaming Time Machine. Once again, we just push the buttons. And of course, Belle's going to help out here, and she's going to press some buttons as well. And when you open it up, what do we have, Belle? Let's see together. Of course, now we have Pokemon Yellow. Once again, a fantastic way. You're just getting the game from yesteryear by plopping it into the Game Time Machine. But what happens if you take a game that doesn't have an old version of it, doesn't have a 2D version of it to go back to? Let's take a game like Yooka-Laylee on the Switch. It was completely developed as a 3D game, but what happens if you plop that in the Game Time Machine? Let's see here. We plop it in. Press the buttons, and of course it works its magic. Belle, help me out here. We're going to open it together. We'll pull it out. Let's see what we have. Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. Never heard of this game. Looks like it is 2D indeed though. So we took a 3D game and went back and created a new 2D version of that game. Well, Impossible Lair, let's give it a try. Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, arguably the best platformer on the Nintendo Switch today. Great heroes, wacky story, charming graphics, but most of all, fantastically solid gameplay. The Impossible Lair is actually the second Yooka-Laylee game in the series, and is a step back to simpler times too. The first Yooka-Laylee game came out in 2017 and was the spiritual successor to the series Banjo Kazooie. It was made by the same team that created the game for Rare back on the N64, and from all the lead up to the game, I was pretty excited because I loved Banjo-Kazooie on the N64. And when the game launched, I didn't love it as much as I hoped that I would. All the levels felt bloated and the enemies seemed pretty generic compared to what were present in Banjo. And it wasn't a bad game, but I think I had overhyped it just a bit in my mind. So when they announced that the sequel was coming out and it was a 2D game now, I was pretty intrigued because I could see potential in the series. I just didn't care for the first game that much. But after purchasing the sequel, The Impossible Lair, and giving it a full playthrough, I can honestly say the developers have found the perfect direction for this series. The story of this game revolves around Yooka-Laylee trying to defeat their archenemy, Capital B, once again. To help with this battle, Queen Phoebe offers her B-tallion to help out, but Capital B captures them all and spreads them across the land and hidden in various books. Then Capital B runs away to his Impossible Lair and dares Yooka-Laylee to come and try to defeat him. And a dare is a dare. And this is where the gameplay itself begins. You are in the Impossible Lair, and if you're like me, you will die before even completing a single percentage of this level. Hence why it's called the Impossible Lair. You are then tossed out into the overworld where there are multiple books laid out, and you can enter the books to play these 2D levels and the goal of rescuing one of the battalions at the end. The more levels you complete, the more battalions you'll have on your side, and for each battalion you have on your side, it is one more hit you can take while traversing the Impossible Lair when you decide to go into it again. There are a total of 20 books that you can enter, and each book has two sides. That means there's basically 40 levels in the game. That means that after rescuing the 40 battalions and finding 8 hidden battalions around the world, that you can have up to 48 hits when attempting the Impossible Lair, which most all players are going to need all of the extra Bs that they can get. But you can try the Impossible Lair at any time you want with your battalion army, which I think is a really cool aspect of the game. The last level and the boss are available from the very start, and it's up to you on when you feel you're ready to fight him and the whole level based on the number of Bs that you have. But like I said, most players are going to need the majority of the Bs to actually finish the game. Let's talk about the levels themselves though for a second, and just see how well designed the platform action really is. The levels vary from being industrial levels to deserty levels to forest levels to ice levels and all in between. They have their own unique charm and challenges presented,
and I always found myself wanting to speed through the levels because they are set up and designed so that if you're quick, you can hit all the platforms just perfectly and correctly, and you get that rush, which gives the speedrunners a thrill. It makes you feel so great when you do it, but if you're not careful, you'll hit a trap along the way, you'll hit an enemy, and you'll die. And this happened to me the majority of the time. So I found that I had to play the game at a normal pace, which is completely fine because the levels were so well designed and beautiful to look at. It allows you to take your time and just take it all in, but also allowed for more time to seek out the hidden coins. Each level has 5 hidden coins within it, and you don't have to find all of them to advance, but collecting them does allow you to pay Trowser to unlock new parts of the map. Within that new parts are new books and levels to play, so you do have to collect at least some of the coins along your way, just simply to finish the game. Now, my personal favorite levels in the game were the ice levels and the desert levels. I've always been a sucker for ice levels because Christmas is my favorite season, and these levels bring out that feeling in me. But in this game, the ice levels and the desert levels seem to be the most solid designs. And what I mean by this is all of the flow of the levels seems perfect, it's varied in its atmosphere and difficulty along the way, and the hidden coins were well placed and made you actually want to play the levels again after you finished it. While playing the levels, you'll notice that the gameplay is very similar though to a game from the past, and this game is Donkey Kong Country. You roll just like Donkey Kong, you swing on vines just like Donkey Kong, you shoot out of barrels like Donkey Kong, but there is one core difference than you and Donkey Kong. You now have a flying bat attached to you that is going to help you if you're jumping by doing some of these glide/spin moves. It adds a core feature in timing your platform jumps, and I absolutely love it. The gameplay is extremely solid, and every time you miss a jump or a platform, you know that it is your fault and not the game's fault for you missing that, and you learn from it and you're able to do it the next time. The only thing missing from these levels is I would say they need a boss at the close. I would have loved to see some bosses just like they had in Donkey Kong Country. It would have made the world seem like it came to a natural close before moving on to the next world. Right now, it just seems like you have level after level after level after level, and there's no really ending to those levels before you start a new one, and a boss would have fixed that perfectly. But besides this complaint, the worlds and the levels are expertly done, and they're sure to suck any player into it. Now, while the levels themselves are definitely the core fun aspect of the game, the most charming part has to be the overworld. It is full of entertaining characters and brings back the full charm of the old Banjo games. They all have these issues going on, and if you help or hinder them, then they're going to change the overworld, which then unlocks these alternate sides of the 2D levels. There are the little puzzles in the overworld to figure out along the way, and it is very slowly paced as you talk to the characters and work through the puzzles, but I like the change of pace because it provides for a much needed break from that heavy action of the 2D game. It's just a great little way to bust it up and just pull the character into more of the story and the charm. Also in the overworld are these Paigey characters. Now, Paigeys were in the first game, and I guess they wanted to find a way to bring them back. And within this, they have these Paigey Challenges. And if you complete the Paigey Challenge, it unlocks part of the overworld. Now, these challenges are almost always extremely easy, and they keep it the slow pace for that overworld. And like I said, it's just a cool way to pull the character back in from the last game. Now, it wasn't necessary, but man, I do love the Paigey power song that goes along with unlocking these areas. I mean, just give this a listen. Amazing. As you journey through the overworld, you can also collect tonics, which allow you to change the gameplay in a variety of different ways. Some of the tonics make the game harder, some of the tonics make the game easier, and some just simply change the aesthetic or the graphics of the game. Now, I usually use the tonics to make the game harder, just so I can get more quills out of the level, because that's how it worked. If you use the tonics to make the level more difficult, you get more quills. But for younger players or players who are less experienced with 2D action like this, I would use the tonics to make the game just a little bit easier, just simply so you could finish the level and you could play it through multiple times if you needed the extra quills. But for the more experienced player, I would definitely use the ones that made the level more difficult. But speaking of difficulty, let's head on over to the greatest challenge that the game has to offer, the Impossible Lair. Now, like I said, you can play this at any time you want from the start of the game, but the more levels you beat and the more battalions that you rescue, the more times that you can get hit within this level. Now, the Impossible Lair itself is over 20 minutes long, with 4 face-offs with the main boss, capital B. The level is full of perfectly timed jumps, obstacles to avoid, and more enemies that we've seen in the entire game. This level is extremely hard, and even with all 48 Bs, it took me almost 20 tries just to complete it. Now, I like having an extremely hard level at the close of the game because it feels like all of your training has finally paid off and you feel accomplished that you have finally beat it. However, there is nothing in this game that comes close to this difficulty. I'd say that the average player of this game will sadly never even finish it because the final level is so hard. I sort of feel like the game should have gradually increased in difficulty leading up to this final level instead of a crazy spike. But as it stands, this is the hardest 2D level I think I've probably ever played, and specifically it's definitely the hardest 2D level I ever played on the Switch, and when finishing it, I had an intense level of satisfaction.
So there we have it. Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair definitely lives up to the title of its name there, of the Impossible Lair being there at the end. But honestly, even outside of that, and just as a game in general, this is one of the best 2D platformers I've played to date, and it's definitely the best platformer on the Nintendo Switch. Now, before we go ahead and give up on our old game time machine back here, let's give it one more round. What happens if you actually what if we go all the way and put a gaming system into the game time machine? Let's see here. We're gonna actually plop the old Switch in here. We're gonna, of course, push our buttons on the gaming time machine. Let's see what happens. We push our buttons and let's see. Oh my gosh, it feels heavy. Ugh. Going back to the old Game Boy. You know, I'm dissatisfied with this result. Let's put it back in there and let's see if we can reverse the results a little bit. Let's see if the gaming time machine can go up into the future as well as going back into the past. Let's push it again here. Let's see, we'll pull it out. So we just put the Game Boy in there, we pull it out and it's a little bit smaller. What is this? The Game & Watch. Holy cow. I think I made a mistake.